Okay, so we're back with the last kind of problem we're going to do. So let's say now here's my whole thing, and it gets split like this, and then gets split like this, and like this. Okay, trying to do the same thing I did in class today. And these things are shaded. All right, so we kind of like we talked about with common denominators before. It's a little tricky because these might not be the same size, right? It's not like I can say take this part and these two parts and just combine them because they're different sizes that I'm combining. So it's a little trickier just to say, oh, here's the amount that I have. So I'm going to have two different parts for how much of this whole entire thing is shaded. So I'm going to have, for this part, some fraction of that fraction, or in other words, times, right? Plus some fraction of the fraction up here also. So, fraction times fraction. Let's look at this one. So, this part that's shaded is 1/4 of 1/4 of the whole square. Okay, so let's think about that again. If we think about this one first this square was cut into fourths. Then I took this fourth and I shaded 1/4 of that fourth. So 1/4 times 1/4. 1/4 of this quarter over here. How about this part up here? Well, again, first the box was cut into fourths. Then I took this fourth, and what fraction did I shade of this fourth? Well, I shaded 2/3. Okay. So just take a look at that again. I split it into fourths first. Then I took this fourth right here. Here's my fourth. And I shaded 1/4 of the 1/4 of the whole thing. Then in this part, okay, again, I started out with 1/4 of the whole thing. Now I shaded 2/3 of it. Now if I wanted to figure out the actual amount, we're kind of just working on these parts. What could we do? Well, we could say that's 1/16 plus 2/12, or 1/16 plus 1/6. We'd have to get a common denominator. And then we could add them together to get an amount. Now think about finding the common denominator would be like breaking this into smaller and smaller pieces until this and these were cut into the same number of pieces. Okay, so two more for you to work on. Number one, here's my whole thing. Let's pretend that these lines are straight. Okay, and I have these three, and just so you can tell more easily, there are 7 parts in that little area. I know it might be kind of hard to see. So that's the first one, and the second one is like this. Okay, so again, I would ask you to pause the video so you can try this on your own. This is the kind of thing that you really need to do on your own in order to get practice to get better at it. Just watching someone else do it is not going to help. So again, the template for these is this plus that, okay? And then same thing here. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, try it out, and we'll go over it when you start the video up again. Okay, so let's look at the top one. Let's look at this part first. If I look at this, first the box was split into 3 equal parts. And then I took 1/3 of that. And what fraction of this 1/3 did I shade? Well, I shaded 3/7 of that 1/3. Okay, how about the other side? Well, remember I, once again, split it into 3 parts. I took 1/3 of it, and how much did I shade? Well, I shaded all of it, so really I could have a 1 here. Okay. If I were to multiply these, I would have 3/21 plus 1/3. This could be reduced to sevenths, but really if I were going to add these, I'd need 21sts anyway. If you were going to go ahead and do this, we actually didn't do this part in class, but 3 times 7 is 21, so 1 times 7, we're going to have 10 21sts. Where does 21 come from? Well, that comes from if I took all 3 of these parts and split each one into 7 pieces. So if I extended these divisions all the way across, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that are shaded in. Okay, and how about this one? So again, we see that the first division here was to divide this into fourths. So I take one of these fourths. What fraction of this fourth do I shade? I shade half of that fourth. How about over here? So the group that worked on this today in the Zoom class actually came up with a couple different ways they could do this. So first they said, well, first we thought it was 1/12 of 1/4. Okay, so here's my 1/4. Where'd they get 12 from? Well, if we split each of these into 3 equal parts, there are 12 altogether, and it's 1/12 of that 1/4. Then they said, well, we're not sure though, because we also think it could be 1/3 of 1/16. So think about that for a minute. 1/3 of 1/16. Where'd they get 16 from? Well, if we go ahead and split all of these into 4 parts, just like this is, then there are 16 pieces like that. We take one of those 1/16 of the whole, and we shade in 1/3 of that 1/16. So I said, we kind of aren't sure which it is. And I said, they're both right. If you think about it, either way, you're going to get 1/48 of the whole. Okay. If I split it like this and then split each of these into thirds, 16 times 3 is going to give me 48, and I still have just one of them shaded. So I'd have half of this quarter plus either 1/12 of that quarter, or you could say half of this quarter plus 1/3 of this 1/16. Okay? If you were going to multiply these, you'd have 1/8 plus 1/48. If I want common denominators, you'd have 7/48. And again, we didn't really go through the add in here in class, but you certainly could. All right, so that's what we did in class today. Please make sure you look at your to-do list for the week, okay? We're not having a Zoom class on Wednesday because I'm asking you to watch a video that I linked on Blackboard. It's in little clips, but it's about an hour, maybe a little more than an hour long, so that's why we're not going to meet on Wednesday. So I'd like you to watch that, and then there's a paper, a 1-page or longer if you want, paper to write about it. The information is all on the to-do list, okay? And then the other thing for this week then, so that's your homework for this week. It's due Sunday night. The other thing I said was just to take this time to catch up. If you have other assignments that you haven't done and you'd like to catch up, then now's the time to do that also, okay? So I will see you guys this week. If you have questions, go ahead and email me. Stop into my office hours tomorrow or Friday or any other time by appointment, all right? And I look forward to reading your papers about this video. It's a 2nd grade teacher talking about students, or showing her lesson with students. They're adding 2-digit numbers and bundling tens and things we've talked about. So I'm asking you to look at not only the content of it, but also just how she handles her classroom, how she works with the students. I think you'll learn a lot from it. Okay, talk to you later.